Today on our 2004 Chevrolet Silverado 3500, we'll be installing the Custom Underbed Install Kit for B&W Companion Fifth Wheel Hitches, part number BWG NRK 1062-5W. This is also available for our gooseneck applications, part number BWG NRK 1062. Here's what our fifth wheel hitch will look like once installed. Next, we'll go ahead and show you how to install the hitch. We're first going to go ahead and prep the vehicle by lowering and removing the spare tire and the rear wheels. Now with our spare tire down, we have more working room underneath. We're going to go ahead and cut out the heat shield here on the passenger side above the exhaust. We need to cut it out right along the hat channel here, just above the axle, and just behind the hat channel here in front of the rear axle. Now to cut it off, you could use a pair of tin snips, or we're going to use an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel. Now to finish off the cut, I'm just going to use a pair of tin snips. With the front half cut, I'll go ahead and repeat the same process with the second half. Now once we have it cut, we'll go ahead and wiggle it free and pull it out. Next, I'm going to take a hammer and just turn up any of the sharp edges so that we don't catch them on our hands. To make it easier to get the center section in position, you can lower the exhaust. To lower the exhaust, you remove the rubber isolator both here at the tailpipe and one next to the muffler, which will help make it easier and more working room to get the center section in place. This particular application has an aftermarket exhaust, so we're going to go ahead and leave it in place. Next, we're going to move into the pickup bed. We need to measure from the end of the pickup bed to the center as per the instructions. Now, when measuring, we need to make sure we're at the actual edge of the pickup bed, not the bed liner or the tailgate, the pickup bed only. Then we'll go back 49.5 inches and mark our length. Next, we're going to measure from side to side and find the center of the pickup bed so we can mark the width. Now once you've found your length and your width and you're in the center of the pickup bed, I'm going to go ahead and use a 1/4 inch bit to drill out my pilot hole. Once I drill out the pilot hole, I can then bring in my hole saw to drill down through the pickup bed, and in this application, also the bed liner. Now to make it easier to drill down through the bed liner and the pickup bed, we're going to use a piece of plywood that has pre-drilled holes as our guide. This will help to keep it centered and going down smoothly through the bed liner and pickup bed. Now once I get my drill lined up with our pilot hole, I'm going to go ahead and stand on the plywood to help keep it in place. Quick tech tip, depending on the depth of your hole saw, it may be necessary to remove the liner before going all the way through the pickup bed. For our application, we were able to go all the way through. We now have our hole drilled out for the throat of the center section where our gooseneck ball will mount. Next, we're going to go ahead and install the cross rails. But before we can get the cross rails above the frame and below the pickup bed, we need to relocate the wiring harness here. There's a couple of push pin fasteners that hold it in place. Using a flat blade screwdriver or an interior trim panel tool, we can just pry those push pins out of the way and give us enough room to get over top of the frame. Now our front rail here has pre-drilled holes and one bolt that's been pressed into it by the manufacturer. This bolt will go over top of the fuel tank on the driver's side. So we're going to go ahead and feed it in like this so that we can rotate it up into position and slide it into place. Note, the front rail goes between the two hatch channels. Our forward hatch channel. It's also the same two hatch channels where we drilled the 4-inch hole in between. We'll bring the cross rail all the way in and center it up. Next, we're going to slide the rear cross rail in between the two narrow hatch channels. So it'll be our rear cross rail and behind the 4-inch hole. Our rear cross rail has pre-drilled and threaded holes that will accept the 1/2-inch hardware. As you can see, the hole is offset, and we want the hole offset down, so the larger space will go up. And we'll keep that in mind once we turn it up into position. We're just going to lay it flat until we get it above the frame rails. Now, starting here with the rear rail, we're going to go ahead and turn it up into position. Now, once we get it most of the way, it can come into a bind, but as you can see, it went nice and easily, so we can then slide it in place. If you find that you have difficulty turning it into position, you can take a wrench, fit it over the rail, and use it for leverage to turn into place. Now, once I have it turned up into position, I'm going to go ahead and slide it forward to touch the hatch channel. Next, we'll work on our front rail. Our front rail also needs to be turned up into position, and we're going to do that while it's here near the 4-inch cutout hole. Once we have it turned up into place, we'll then slide it forward towards the front hatch channel. Note, as you go further forward, the clearance between the frame rail and the bottom of the bed gets a little tighter, and you may need to use a hammer to tap it in place. Now, to secure the center section to our front cross rail, we're going to use a 2 1/4 inch long 1/2-inch bolt that'll go through the cross rail, through the center section, and then get secured with a flat washer, split lock washer, and a nut. We'll have a total of 3 fasteners that secure the front cross rail to the center section, the pressed bolt, and 2 more that we'll install. For the rear cross rail to center section, we're going to use the 1 1/2-inch long 1/2-inch bolt, a split lock washer and flat washer that'll go through the attachment point in the center section and thread into the rear cross rail. We're now ready to put the center section in place. We'll feed it up over the exhaust and then over top of the fuel tank, lining up the pressed bolt in the front cross rail with the attachment point in the center section. Keep in mind that the latch rod here for the throat that locks down the ball will face the driver's side. Now, once we line the center section up with the bolt in the front rail, our hole that we drilled in the pickup bed, I'm going to go ahead and hold it in position and start installing the fasteners. Note, it may be necessary to use a pry bar or tool to push up on the center section to line it up with the attachment points if the bed has been dented or depressed in any way. Now that we've got all our fasteners installed finger tight, we'll go ahead and run them down. Now with our center section in place, we need to move to the outer frame and assemble the side bracket. We're going to go ahead and put the 2-piece side bracket together here on our cart and then install it on the truck. We'll take the carriage bolt and feed it through the back side of the bracket, matching it up with the square holes, and then line it up with the 2 round holes and set it in place. To secure those fasteners, we'll use a split lock washer and nut. Next, we'll go ahead and install it onto the truck, securing the front attachment point with the 2 1/4 inch 1/2 inch bolt, flat washer, split lock washer, and nut. The rear top attachment point will attach to the rear cross rail, and we'll use the split lock washer and flat washer going through the side bracket into the threaded portion of the rear rail. After we slide the bolt in on the front rail to help hold the weight of the side bracket, we'll go ahead and install the rear rail fastener. This time we're just going to go ahead and install our fasteners finger tight. Next, we're going to take a U-bolt, go around the frame, and come out the 2 pre-drilled holes here at the top and the bottom of the side bracket. Keep in mind when going around the frame to be careful not to pinch any wires or brake lines. Now to secure the U-bolt, we're going to use a split lock washer and nut. Next, we're going to install the 3/4 inch bolt. It's going to go through the oval slot that was here in the frame. Now, on the inside of the frame, we're going to install the oval block. One side will be offset one way, and the opposite side will center the block. We can be offset to the front or offset to the back, and then if we flip it over, we're centered for the oblong hole or oval hole in the frame. So for this application, we're going to take our block and offset towards the front of the truck. Once we have the block in place, we'll take the bolt and feed it from the outside in, securing it with a 3/4 inch split lock washer and nut. Now with the passenger side done, I'm going to move over to the driver's side and repeat the same process. Now with our side bracket hardware installed, we're going to go ahead and start tightening down our fasteners. We're going to start with the side bracket to cross rails first. Once we have them tightened down, we can go ahead and torque to specifications as indicated in instructions. Now with our 3/4 inch bolt tightened down and torqued to specifications, we'll move to the U-bolt. As we tighten down the U-bolt, we want to make sure we do it evenly from top to bottom. Then once we have it tightened down, we'll go ahead and torque to specification. Now with our U-bolt tightened down, we'll tighten down the 2 carriage bolts that we installed to secure the 2 side bracket halves together. Now with the passenger side bracket tightened and torqued to specifications, I'm going to move over to the driver's side and repeat the same process. We'll move underneath the truck and tighten down the center section to the cross rails. We'll tighten them down and then torque to specifications as per the instructions. Now with all our hardware tightened and torqued to specifications, we can go ahead and install the latch handle, carriage bolt, and nut. We'll take the latch handle and feed it over the frame towards the center section. We can then feed through the hole in the center section towards the handle. Now installing the eyelet of the handle and lining it up with the latch pin, the handle will go on the front side towards the front of the vehicle, and the latch pin sits on the back, where the carriage bolt will go through the latch pin attachment point, then through the handle, and we'll tighten it down with the flange nut. Now, using the center section as a template, we'll drill out the 4 attachment points for the U-bolt chain hold down.
To drill it out, we're going to use the step bit process, starting with a smaller pilot bit. Then we're going to move into the pickup bed so we can drill down through the bed and through the center section until we get to our final size of a 1/2 inch as per the instructions.
Now once we have our holes drilled out, we'll just take our U-bolts and drop them in place. Next we'll move underneath, install the springs and lock nuts to secure them. We'll tighten the nut down till it's flush with the bottom of the U-bolt. There's the 2 on the passenger side. Next I'll do the 2 on the driver's side. Now with everything installed and secured, we're ready to go ahead and reinstall the rear wheels and spare tire. There you have it for the B&W Companion 5th Wheel Hitch, part number BWG NRK 1062-5W on our 2004 Chevrolet Silverado 3500.